just sitting in my car. It was a short drive, maybe only 6 or 7 minutes, but I remember listening to music, trying to calm down, and saying out loud, I don't want to die. It's so hard to know where to start, but I feel like dates seem like a logical place. On December 18th, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was getting into the shower one day and I noticed and felt something that didn't feel right. I thought this might be a cyst, this might be a fibroid, certainly not cancer. It was actually my first time seeing that doctor. So I walk in saying, I think I might be concerned about this thing, but it's probably nothing. And she said, I want to take it seriously. I want to get it checked out and imaged. But the second that the doctor saw the image on the screen, she said, I don't have a good feeling about this. They don't tell you how scary it's going to be or how long it's going to take to be laying there on a table thinking, what could this be? What could this be? What could this be? What would this mean for my life? I'm 27 years old. I thought I had all of this time ahead of me. But everybody at that facility was amazing, and they just tried to talk to me about anything under the sun, my jewelry, what I like to do, my job. Thankfully, uniquely to my story, I actually got my results the next day. Went into a room with just my parents and a nurse, and eventually the doctor walked in that did my biopsy, sat down, looked at me, smiled with tears in her eyes, and said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it is breast cancer.
In that moment when we heard that news, there was this overwhelming urge on my part to stand up and be between Kelsie and the doctor, as though I could somehow buffer that news or eliminate that news from actually touching her, even though she'd already heard it. Kelsie looked at me and I looked at her, and we reached out and held hands, and she said, I just never thought this would be my life.
Even though my life changed in 2 days, these people from the very beginning had a plan. It was just then me, my parents, and this nurse who became my nurse navigator. She connected me with an oncologist at Illinois CancerCare, with a surgeon, with a plastic surgeon, with a dietitian, multiple specialists and doctors, all to get me to that point of being cancer-free. So from there, I eventually had my first appointment with Dr. Veeder at Illinois CancerCare before I even had my surgery. And I still remember him walking into the room wearing a suit jacket, but immediately turning around, taking his suit jacket off and hanging it on the hook.
And there are cases I hear where doctors stand by the side of the door, and I tend to want to get things done because I'm always running behind. So if I take off my jacket and make myself sit down, even though my brain may be running at 100 miles an hour saying, I got 4 more people to see and I'm already behind, I'm in the present and can go from there.
There's just something so sweet and personal about that he does that. And I know it's something he does every single time he enters the room with a patient, because he wants to let that patient know, I'm busy, but I'm here for you, and I'm going to hang off my jacket and I'll stay here for as long as this conversation takes. It actually reminded me a lot of what Mr. Rogers does at the beginning and the end of a show.
No, I did not get it from him, but just a practical thing that has become a trademark. And I saw a lady just this week who I had taken care of 20 years ago, and then fortunately was cured and now has a blood problem. And I went in and she says, you're still doing your jacket. So it does leave people notice what we do. So here's somebody really in their prime of their early part of their life having to do a battle with a disease that's completely unexpected and not predictable. Everybody with cancer is upset, but why wouldn't somebody at 29 or 30 be profoundly upset with her whole life ahead of her?
So much of my treatment was going to depend on the results of my surgery. But I actually had a trip planned to Australia and New Zealand that coming February. But we met with my surgeon multiple times, and she said, I think it would actually be better for Kelsie to have this time away to focus on living life to the fullest. I got back from my trip, and 2 days later, I had my surgery.
jet lagged and all. But unfortunately, as I was waking up from my anesthesia, my surgeon told me that it did in fact spread to one of my lymph nodes. They could see it visibly, that it was full of cancer. I was immediately angry just with the situation that I was in. It was finally settling in my heart and in my mind that I was going to have to go through weeks of treatment. So as soon as we got home from surgery, my mom came over every day to help me, eat, make food, shower, all those things. And I remember that in her earnestness to help me, she kept wanting to talk through the scenario.
She just kind of looked at me with this sort of empty look in her eyes, and she said, you need to go away. I just need to be alone. You need to go away for a minute. So I just kind of sat out here quietly and waited to be called back in. I knew what she was doing. I knew that she was thinking things through and praying and hoping for some resolution to some questions that she probably had in her mind about what was happening to her and how this was going to go forward.
There are some points in our lives where we hope things and we're given an answer that we don't want to hear. But that in and of itself is a shared experience. So I went back to Dr. Veeder, and he had a plan ready, though, that we were going to do this 4-part chemo for 18 weeks, where 2 of the drugs were attacking the actual cancer, and then 2 of the drugs were preventing a certain growth hormone from feeding the cancer. So, the fact that that drug combination even exists is a testament to the amount of research, the amount of clinical trials, the amount of fundraisers that people go to for cancer research, because that didn't exist 20 years ago. So I went in to have my first chemo treatment on April 9th of 2019 after I had fully recovered from surgery and was strong enough. But they welcome you at the door with a smile on their face, a bag of goodies for you, some snacks, a blanket, a teddy bear, which you're like, I'm an adult, but yes, I feel like I need these things. I feel like I need this extra bit of comfort. And I looked down at the blanket that a volunteer had made for me, and I was speechless. I looked over at my mom, and we both realized that this blanket had ladybugs on it, which maybe doesn't sound that important, but growing up, my mom's nickname for me was Buglet, and my room was ladybug themed because I was always darting around like a bug with so much energy. And by cycle 3, that was really wearing on me, that I had 3 more cycles after that, and I just didn't feel good and I wanted to be done. But quitting was not an option. I needed to push through for the sake of the future years ahead. And so I really started to dig into what things could I still do. I didn't want people to just hear from somebody else that I had been diagnosed with cancer and then wonder and think all these things about me. So I decided I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to share the news myself. I'm going to make these new videos about true and false statements about breast cancer, or I'm going to make a video about radiation in Chicago and what I'm doing with my time. I wanted to tell people that, I was afraid, but that I also had a lot of peace about whatever my story was going to look like, and that I still had hope. It was just amazing to see the outpouring of support from people I hadn't even talked to in 10 or 5 years that were letting me know they were going to be thinking of me and praying for me while I was going through treatment. It was just a really fun, new, creative outlet. It was there for me, just like a friend that I could have something to hang out with. I really missed going on long walks and hikes.
She wanted to walk 100 miles during that time, so we went on short walks, but even that was draining for her.
I am proud to say that by the end of those 18 weeks, I not only walked 100 miles, but I walked 150. But I was able to make it through those 18 weeks with all of my friends by my side. I actually started calling them my cancer bridesmaids, that they would be standing and walking through that season with me. They got me multiple bouquets of flowers or gift baskets. One friend timed my mail so that she would send me a letter on the day that I started each new chemo cycle. I'm forever grateful for the people that thought of me We're intentional, and it's made me want to do that for other people who are going through hard seasons. Cycle 4 was probably the hardest, and obviously cycle 6 was the easiest. Even though your body is the most worn down, there's just something so satisfying about knowing that you've finished. All the nurses made a big deal about it. They gave me a chemo award called the Purple Heart Award. So they just make you feel special about your accomplishment, because there really is something to be said about fighting a fight that you never asked to be in. You're going through something hard for a short time in order to have long-term gain. So the first time that I went into Illinois CancerCare, part of that was meeting with a financial counselor, and I knew that there would be certain medicines that would be very, very expensive and outside of my budget. So she just honestly took it from there, worked directly with the manufacturers to fill out paperwork for me. I think I had to go in one time to verify and sign something. So, that was all the initiative of Illinois CancerCare. I didn't even think of that as an option. When you're mentally, physically, emotionally going through something that you never thought you'd go through, each little step that someone can take on for you is a lifesaver. What they do is not just medicine. It's really holistic in the sense of, let's help you feel welcome. Let's help you with your bills. Let's help you with your counseling.
Their empathy is amazing. To a person that we met, from Dr. Veeder, his nurses, all the volunteers, the people in the chemo room.
So after chemo and radiation, the next step for me was to start anti-estrogen medicines for 5 years in order to give me the best chance of the cancer not coming back. So I'm about 2 years now out from cancer, and I have about 3 more years of being on the anti-estrogen medicine. So I'm just thankful that I know that I can call them at any point in my treatment journey and say, I have this new symptom or this new pain. Is it worth getting checked out? And they'll forever be there for me. And Dr. Reeder, until he retires, will forever take my calls, and just help me through each new phase and each new fear.
I don't have anything else I have to do, and it seems to me I've got good gifts of helping people, and why not extend myself that little extra? I like to think of it, I'm the lifeboat and they're in the water, and you try to get the lifeboat to as many people as you can.
That's just what they do, though. They have the forethought of what will our patients need and what will make them feel comfortable as they're going through this journey, and then they make a way for you to have those resources. But I've told people I don't want to leave Peoria, because I know that if I ever do have this as another chapter of my life, I want to be close to Illinois CancerCare again. I want to be close to the people who helped me. It's kind of cliche, but we're not guaranteed each day. And so each day now that I have, I'm trying to take full advantage.
To watch her at such a young age have the wherewithal to move forward in a positive direction is just very inspiring.
So yeah, I just hope that each person who has been given this new chapter through the treatment that they had at Illinois CancerCare takes full advantage of that time now that they have, and just do all the things that they wish they could have done during treatment, because now we have the experience and the chance to do it.